is losing several players to the portal, and against opinion, they really haven't lost much at all, and they're going to add quite a few players too.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To this crossover of Locked On Gators and Locked On the Portal. I'm your host, Brian Smith, along with Brandon Olsen, who's trying to survive over in England before the flu kills him. But today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action all season long, FanDuel has you covered. Visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets every single weekend. We're going to be talking about portal needs. Brandon, I'm guessing you and I can come up with a few for the Gators. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess just a few. That'll be a little bit later on in the show. A little bit of a surprise for me today. As Brandon was trying to sleep off the flu, Hayden Hansen entered the portal. Didn't see that one coming. When it came across my screen, I literally had to read that twice. I was surprised. We'll discuss that. Jaden Baugh. Staying? Going? How much would that hurt? We're going to get into that with Brandon because I have a feeling that would not be a friendly discussion point. But the first thing is quarterback play that we're going to get to. I think they're going to be better off without DJ. That is my take of the day. There it is. That's all I'm going to say because there is no way you're going to convince me that 16 touchdowns and 14 interceptions is a good thing. Brandon, if you want to add to that, go right ahead. But this is the first topic. Do you want to add to what I just said? Where do you want to go with that?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say that. Look, I like DJ. I still do. I still think he's got potential. But, I mean, I started saying it in October that, maybe sometimes the best thing for you is just go to a new spot. Just restart there. Just find a new home and hopefully figure something out. Hopefully get whatever surgeries that he needs because, I mean, for most of the season, he obviously was not healthy. Would like to see him get fixed up, even if it means redshirting in 2026. Like, one good year probably isn't going to get you much draft hype anyway after this awful 2025 season that you had. But I could see him going somewhere closer to home in Texas. I could see him going somewhere like USC. If he's going to do the whole redshirt thing for a year or whatever he may be doing, I could see him going a few different spots. But I still think he's fixable. I'll say that. I think he's fixable. But again, I don't know if he was fixable at Florida. I feel like there were a lot of negative moments this year for him and the fan base. There were times where he just looked like he was confused. I mean, there were times when you saw him on the sideline against LSU late in the game. He looked like he was reading an iPad in Chinese. He had no idea what was going on there. It was wild to watch him do that. There were quite a few times where he looked genuinely mentally just like, what the hell is happening? Like, he looked confused at how bad he was playing. And so I hope for him he finds a new spot that works well for him. I didn't think he was going to enter the transfer portal, but I do think it was the right decision for him to kind of rejuvenate his career.
With that, Buster Faulkner has been hired from Georgia Tech to be the quarterback coach / OC. We talked about this a little bit before the show, both of us speculating a little bit. I think you're leaning this way as well. We're going to see a little bit of what he did at Tech. He's still going to run the quarterback some, but probably throw it more. No offense to Georgia Tech. You're going to have more speed and more athleticism outside the numbers at Florida than you are at Tech. Opens up the playbook a little bit. And in critical situations or against teams like Georgia or Tennessee, big games, you might run the quarterback a little bit, but it'll be different. It'll be a mix. I think it'll be pretty easy to attract a quarterback. And to that end, just going to throw out as a reminder, not saying any of these guys are going to end up at Florida. Before anybody says anything that Brian said something, I know how this game works. Just to be clear, these are some of the guys that are in the portal that would be intriguing. Obviously, Sam Leavitt, straightforward. He was Arizona State's quarterback, really, really talented. Drew Mestamaker, I think he can play in about anything, but probably doesn't want to run very much, if at all. Why would you? That offense, the way he threw for 4,000 yards, I imagine he'll end up at Oklahoma State, but we'll see. Sorsby, I would have him as a number one guy right now at quarterback because he's got experience and he is a runner. I think he would be the perfect fit at Florida. He ran for like 600 this year. Big guy, 230. That would be interesting. Dylan Raiola, I think, would be a terrible fit because he's not going to run at all. Obviously, Kenny Minchey's the enigma. Didn't get to play at Notre Dame, but he's a freak athlete. Aiden Childs, the kid from Michigan State. Another guy that's kind of like DJ, that's more of a pocket passer. You got the Caden Hauser kid over there at East Carolina. And then you got Colton Joseph, who I'm really enamored with. He's at Old Dominion. In one game against Indiana, although he didn't throw it very well that game, 179 yards rushing. Look, Indiana's defense is legit. That's a lot of yards, bro. So the portal for quarterbacks, Brandon, is wide open. Have you heard anything, or is there anybody you have a preference on? What direction do you think the Gators are trying to go here?
I think right now Florida's trying to go 2 quarterbacks in the portal. And that they're open about that. Colton Joseph is one of the early names they're talking about. Aaron Philo, the backup from Georgia Tech. I mean, whenever Buster Faulkner was entering, or whenever Buster Faulkner was leaving Georgia Tech, it was always expected that Aaron Philo would be a potential player to follow him. Had that experience in the system, been there 2 years, productive in games that he did play, but of course, Haynes King was their QB1, so wasn't playing much. Colton Joseph has the legitimate dual threat ability. I think that some of the names, like Kenny Minchey, is someone that Florida fans mention a lot. He's someone that said Florida has contacted him. I'm torn on Kenny Minchey, just because, you were at Notre Dame 3 years. 2 of those years, they brought in a transfer portal quarterback and had him start. And then last year, you had a quarterback battle that you lost, and CJ Carr took over. It's just tough for me to be like, yeah, you know what? I want the guy that has lost the quarterback battle a few times. That's, to me, that just doesn't seem like a good approach. And maybe it is, but it doesn't seem like a good approach to me. Brandon Sorsby, I'd put money that he's going to end up at Texas Tech. I would bet money that I would bet money that he's winding up at Texas Tech sooner rather than later, or maybe they wait a little bit to be like, no, we totally weren't tampering. But yeah, I can see Brandon Sorsby going there. I think if you can get Colton Joseph and Aaron Philo together,
that'd be pretty good.
Let them duke it out with Tramel Jones, Will Griffin. I don't care, whoever you have in that room, let them duke it out and see what you got going there. And I think that they bring 2 different styles. I think Colton Joseph's more of the legitimate dual threat. Aaron Philo is more of just a pure passer. But I mean, again, we've seen Aaron Philo have successful games with Buster Faulkner calling plays. And we've seen Colton Joseph, like you mentioned, rush for 179 yards against Indiana. He had a long of 70 something in that game. Like great athlete. I think that if you want to do what I think is going to happen, which is, because Buster Faulkner's been in OC since 2008, 2019, he ran more of an air raid style. I think if you're going to see that air raid passing game with the power spread run game from Georgia Tech, I think Colton Joseph is a perfect fit for that.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why I think he'll at least entertain the option to look it forward. And there's other schools that do it, don't get me wrong, but like they've got a lot of weapons, especially if this guy, Brent, tell me if you've ever heard of a guy by the name of Jaden Baugh. Does that ring a bell to you?
Who's that?
Who's that? If Jaden Baugh comes back, it would probably help. We're going to talk about that next here on this crossover, Locked On Gators and the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you are reacting to it in real time. FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the games start to shift, a receiver gets hot, the defense tightens up, or momentum flips just after turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props will update as the game heats up, and you can bet on the next touchdown pass, drive result, or anything else. And you can even do it with college too. Oklahoma playing against the Alabama Crimson Tide. 1.5 point spread. That could be pretty interesting. So if you want to bet on the right side of all the action this season, check out FanDuel and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, Brandon. If Jaden Baugh leaves, will you have to go seek mental help, or will there be any other concerns, or what do you think, brother?
It's going to be really interesting if he does leave. I know that there's a lot of Florida Gators fans that talk about, Jabbar Jaloop got hired at Texas as the running backs coach. There's obviously a good relationship there between Jaden Baugh and him. And so there's that possibility. I hate that people keep talking about NIL as the driving factor here. Like, how could we get outbid for him? NIL, from what I've been told, is not the driving factor for Jaden Baugh for where he's going to play football in 2026.
Good.
I think a lot of guys right now, they look at it and say, all right, well, I want to win, right? I mean, Florida saw that happen with Trevor Etienne a couple years ago. He left Florida to go to Georgia because he wanted to win. I don't think Jaden Baugh would do that just because, I think Jaden Baugh has a spine, and so I don't think he would do that one. But like, guys want to win, and if you can't convince them that they're gonna win with you, it's gonna be tough. I will say that if I were on that staff, which by the way still does not have a running backs coach, which I'm sure doesn't help your case, then I would say, John Summerall has won everywhere he's gone. You've got as an easy schedule for an SEC schedule next year, for a 9-game SEC schedule next year. There's a path to winning a good amount of football games next year. And I know that everybody's talking about how many players Florida has lost in the portal.
We'll get to that in a second. Come on.
Yeah. There's not a lot of significance there for a lot of the players that have. There's a couple that I go, oh man, I wish would have stayed. But there's quite a few players I left, and it's like, okay, what I've been trying to tell people is, if a player with that level of production were joining your team in the transfer portal, would you be happy or upset? And if you aren't happy, then why are you mad that you're losing that? Like Aiden Mizell, everyone loves him. He's a fan favorite at Florida. Fact is, he's got 400 yards in 3 years. If Florida brought in a receiver with 400 yards in 3 years, fans would be really pissed. Fans would go, "What the hell are we doing? That's someone that hasn't been productive. That's a bad portal ad. That's what you lost. Why are you upset about that then? Other than he's a fan favorite, legacy, whatever it may be." But I do think that Florida, you're going to have also a lot of players added in the transfer portal. And I know right now it seems like, oh, everyone's leaving. Most of the guys leaving were not significant contributors in 2025 and wouldn't be significant contributors in 2026.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like Hayden Hansen had 30 catches last year. He's a good player, but he's an outlet. He's not a game changer. He is a good blocker. He's 6'7", 6'8", something like that, 265 pounds. Okay. But after him, like, nobody shocked me that got in the portal, and nobody that I was like, oh no. I mean, DJ I kind of expected because he was so attached to Billy. And again, I still think it's better for all parties involved. I agree, Mr. Olsen. Sometimes you just need to kind of check out, check back in someplace else. That's fine. But Hansen, like tight end for the Gators, this is where I'm curious. Do you think Faulkner will use a lot of 12 personnel, or do you think it'll be more a weapon? Because Florida can get so many receivers. I'm curious to see what they do with tight end. What do you think there?
I'm also really curious to see what you have, especially now that you lost 2 of your top 3 tight ends to the transfer portal, and Amir Jackson being your tight end 3 and Hayden Hansen being your tight end 1. We don't have an update officially on Tony Livingston. Maybe he's also going to be out. But Hayden was one that, just to pull the curtain back, like everybody knows, I've had Hayden on the show for 4 years in a row now. This wasn't this like foregone conclusion that he was entering the transfer portal up until I think we spoke on Tuesday, and a decision still wasn't made. So this is something that happened fairly recently, the decision being made. Sucks. I mean, look, I think he's a good football player, right? And I know Florida fans hate him. Can't tell you why, frankly. But, I think that he's someone who can contribute, would have been really helpful in the run game. I mean, you look at how Georgia Tech used a guy like Jackson Hawes a couple of years ago, who's now playing for the Buffalo Bills. I think he would have been a good stylistic fit in that regard. But if the offense is changing a little bit, it's going to be a little bit different there at tight end. So I really don't know what the plan is right now. You've still got a lot of talented receivers, a lot of speed on this team.
Oh, yeah.
But tight end is a spot where now you probably have to go into the portal for 1, maybe 2, because at tight end, you've got Tony Livingston is back. You've got Micah Jones, who's a freshman last year, didn't play. Cameron Klossman, who was a freshman last year, didn't play. And Scott Isaacs, who, frankly, I do think is going down to the transfer portal. And so you're going to have probably 3 tight ends on the roster at that point. You're going to need to go into the portal to add somebody that has experience and can contribute right away.
I would agree. And tight ends, that's one of the most injured positions on the field. So having 4 is not a lock to get you a point where you're comfy running a lot of 12 personnel. So if that's what they want to do, they might have to add 2. I agree. Let's talk a little bit about the defense. Anybody on defense that entered so far that you're like, he hasn't done all of it. Somebody you just thought maybe could develop into something, or is it just like, you know what, cut bait? Castillo was in there, but he was very inconsistent. He's super talented, but he's very inconsistent. Is there anybody, or is it just it is what it is? Because I didn't get concerned when I looked at Florida's defensive list.
I think the only player that I really look at on defense and say that I would have hoped would stay that entered the transfer portal would be Jadan Baugh. That's it. Anybody else, I was kind of like, all right, it is what it is. Teddy Foster, someone that entered the portal, I do think has potential, but wasn't cracking the rotation here. And even when he came over, he was viewed as, this is the long athletic kid that Florida's taking in state, and they're just banking on the potential. Hasn't hit there at this point yet. But I think that there's most of the guys leaving. It is what it is. Pup Howard is a good football player, but best ability is availability. And ever since he injured his ankle in 2024, was never really the same player.
Grimsley's a really talented kid. Nice guy, too. Out of Tampa. He won't take long to find a home. That's an SEC level player. They've got corners. They just were always hurt or the coverage was busted. That's what it seems like with Florida at the critical moments. This year it was better, though. When we come back, portal needs. I'm going to ask Brandon to rank it. And I want fans, if you're going to come back, you want to talk about where should Florida spend their money and why? Not talking about just portal. Could they save a little extra for this next recruiting class? That is next here on the Portal Podcast with Locked On Gators. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. The holidays are always going to show up faster than you expect. And if you're still putting together that last-minute gift, last-minute decor, or you're trying to get your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or all those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need and to get it fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily right to your door. The selection is huge. The bedding, decor, kitchen gear. You can get stuff for the kids in their room to make it a little more tidy, or you can do whatever you want for yourself. Make your house the way that you want it. It's easy to stop by and shop on the site. And again, it's going to come right to your door. Get last minute hosting essentials, gifts for all the loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays with way less. Head to wayfair.com and shop all things home. Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style and every home. We are also brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers are in your bank account. Well, they're not there anymore, and they don't match the numbers you need. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances. Because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Choose anything that you need from Rocket Money in regards to saving with finances, whether it is getting rid of those little things that you need to figure out, why am I paying for this every month? They'll be able to help you with that, and they can get it done quick, saves you time, and it also has the bill alerts and spending notifications sent right to your phone to make it easy. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, Brandon, give me your top 3 positions in order where the Gators need to hit and take quarterback out of it. That's the obvious. That's always number one. But outside of quarterback, what are your top 3 positions that the Gators have got to do something in the transfer portal, and why?
Offensive line, because your offensive line wasn't great this year, and you also lost quite a couple guys. You lost Austin Barber starting left tackle, Jake Slaughter starting center, Damian George starting right guard. Your left guard, Najee Harris, and right tackle, whether that was Bryce Lovett or Caden Jones, weren't exactly awesome this year. And so hit the portal, get some new quality players, and at least have some competition. But of course, the flip side of that is that offensive line development is worse than it's ever been across the country, I think. And so everyone that is a quality offensive lineman that goes into the portal is going to get paid like it. And I think that for Florida, they're not super keen on getting into bidding wars with anyone. I know Florida fans hate to hear that, but such is life. I think safety is one because your safety play this year was god awful.
Yes, it was.
Turns out that when you hire a running backs coach to coach safeties, things don't exactly go well. I don't know who could have predicted that one. But yeah, hiring Vinny Cincinnati was a flop from the moment it happened. And I mean, that safety room, Jordan Castell wasn't good in 2024. He somehow regressed in 2025 under Vinny Cincinnati. Bryce Thornton was good in 2024, regressed under Vinny Cincinnati. So I think safety is a spot where you got to go. Let's add some talent. You've got Lagonza Hayward that you brought in last year, but he's playing star. You've got Drake Stubbs from last year as well, but limited playing time this year. And frankly, when he was out there, wasn't exactly playing great. He had a bunch of tweets for weeks about wanting to go out there, wanting to play. And then he gets out there in the first play, whiffs on the tackle, gives up a big gain. And so it's just one of those welcome to the SEC moments that he got there. And then I think you have to look somewhere along the defensive line. There's talent, but a lot of it's young. And so I think adding just more quality depth there is going to be helpful. You're losing Caleb Banks. He's declared for the NFL draft. You lost Tavorius Brown, who didn't play much, but did rotate in. You've got some guys like Joseph Mbachu and Makai Boyro on the interior. You've got Jaden Woods on the edge, at least for the time being. Who knows what's going to happen?
I was going to ask you about him next because that's a guy that cannot afford to lose.
Yeah, I think he's got to be right up there with Baugh as a priority. But I think you just got to add some quality on the defensive line there.
On the subject of the D line, any word on whether they're going to be a 3-man front, 4-man front, or B combo? Like
combo.
That matters. Combo? Okay. Makai Boyro might be the most important D lineman then because there just aren't many guys built like that. He's 340, 350.
Came into his own this year too.
Yeah, he's starting to play pretty good. They're probably a lot of the – I'm sure Georgia's still trying to get him. I mean, that's just inevitable. And I get that. Besides him, is there anybody else – well, Jaden Woods. Anybody else that would be devastating to lose up front? Because D linemen are always at a premium, brother.
Yeah, as far as wanting to keep guys, there's plenty of guys that I'd want to keep and I want to be on the roster. But as far as, devastating if they lost, there's really not many. I don't get tied to guys that we haven't seen a ton of. Like people can talk about LJ McCray, but it's we haven't seen LJ McCray play that much, right? It's tough to be tied to him. He's been injured this year, so tough to really think that would be devastating that you lost a guy that didn't play. Joseph Mbachu, I thought was really promising as a true freshman this year on the interior. I think he would be probably the guy where I'd be most upset if he entered the transfer portal on the interior of the defensive line.
That's another big body guy that's probably got the best football ahead of him, so I don't disagree there. Offensively, obviously Baugh, obviously Lagway's gone. Those are subjects we've already touched on. Who do you expect for the Gators to look forward to? Okay, we're going to keep this guy. He may not have produced a ton, but because of him, we don't have to go spend $1 gazillion on a portal guy. Is there anybody, skill position player or offensive lineman that's next up on the offensive side, or is that really just wait and see for spring ball?
I mean, if you could keep VB3 and Dallas Wilson, that's your answer for guys that have to stay. But as far as guys we haven't seen that I'm looking at and I'm going, yeah, they could be a guy. Duke Clark is one, but I think he's going to stay a Gator, frankly. But that's another. There's really not much proven on the offense, and part of that's because the offensive coaching staff last year was abysmal. They were terrible, and so it's really tough to say who you need to keep or anything like that on the offensive side of the ball. There's a lot of youth, a lot of athletes. You're also in the state of Florida. There's a lot of young athletes everywhere, so it's really tough to get too tied to any individual player that hasn't produced yet.
That's a great segue because one of the things you've kind of hinted at, Florida may not have gone, quote unquote, all in on keeping some guys and or going to the portal at least yet. One of the thoughts that I have, and I think this is the proper way to do it, although you can speak to this better than I can as a Gator fan, Florida fans have a patience level of 1 to 10 of -7. So one of the most insufferable fan bases I've ever seen when it comes to patience, but they haven't been good lately either. So I get that. Do you think they would accept dumping a ton of money into the high school ranks for the class of 27, building this thing long-term, or are they just not going to be able to accept that?
Nope.
Well, then I got a feeling they're going to be.
We want to win. We had a head coach get hired, and the next day he said, "Winners win. I'm a winner. We're going to win. We want to win. This is the most favorable schedule Florida's had in years. This is not, kick the can down the road for 27. We've seen a lot of programs turn it around in year one lately with the transfer portal, and then using that. John Summerall has great experience with the transfer portal after losing a ton of guys every year at Troy and Tulane. We want to win. He promised a winner. We want to win.
Define win. That's a very subjective term in the Southeastern Conference because, my opinion, like anything below 9, the fans are ready to burn down your house. So, and it's ridiculous, but somebody has to lose. That's just the math of it. What do you think is a realistic number for them to get to next year? I haven't really paid attention to their schedule. It's still, they still play a tough schedule every year, but like they don't even know who their quarterback is. The O-line's a mess. Secondary's a mess. I'm not sure you should have said that. I'm just saying. What do you
I
think?
need 8. I need 8.
I think 8's doable because I'll say this. I will be shocked if he doesn't get a decent quarterback. If you can't sell a quarterback to come to Florida, I would have some buyer's remorse straight up because you got Faulkner. Like I said it on Locked On Seminoles. I'm like, Faulkner should be a guy that's getting looks from FSU and every other team that's thinking about doing a move this year or next. And then the Gators swooped him and got it. That was a smart move by UF. It should not be very hard, but
Nope.
O-line is my concern. I'm going to reiterate something I said on X and across social media. This is as bad as I've ever seen it for O-line. And you kind of touched on it, and nobody's getting in the portal. Like it's a disaster. So that's another reason I'm concerned about 8. It's just they're walking into a mess on the offensive line. I'm not sure you can fix it in 1 year or even 2 because O-line is a very slow developing spot. If they took 2 JUCO kids along the offensive line in this next class, I think it would be smart. They need some experienced guys and then portal again. Like, I don't know what to tell you. How many O-linemen did the Gators sign in this class? They even get anybody that has
5.
any chance?
5.
Hopefully one of them can. You never want freshmen really playing. I'm just going to say it. At O-line, they might have to because they're not in a good spot. And again, there'll be a few guys induced into the portal. I get that. But like the kid from Arizona State's a pretty good tackle. He's not unbelievable. He's a pretty good player. You're not going to see elite kids from like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas, Georgia. Those kids aren't going in the portal. So how are you getting to 8 with what you guys have on the offensive line? That's the question. If they can fix that, I would have a lot of faith in Summerall. I think he's a good coach. I think Faulkner's a really good coach too. But man, that offensive line might be why Jaden Baugh is at least considering hitting the portal. I couldn't blame him.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I watched Texas's run game this year, and it wasn't as good as it used to be because of that offensive line. So if that's the other spot you're considering, I'm questioning that a little bit. But I mean, for Florida, we got Phil Troutwine. I'm going to put faith in having one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. I think that there's certain coaches where they deserve the I'm going to shut up and let you do your job. And I think Phil Troutwine's one of those guys on the offensive line. I personally think that, we've seen this trend in college football where they just hire winners, right? Kurt Cignetti to Indiana, Bob Chesney to UCLA, John Summerall to Florida. They just hire guys, Alex Golesh to Auburn. They just hire guys that win football games, and they're good football coaches. Like when John Summerall got hired, I said, I don't know if he's going to work here, but I know that you just hired a good football coach. And I think that for a lot of the assistants that John Summerall has hired, I've gone, they're good football coaches, and I know that. And so I'm kind of taking solace in that and just trusting a coaching staff that I think is filled out with good football coaches. I don't need to go, oh, he's a great recruiter, he's a great developer. He's a good football coach. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think long-term it'll be fine. It's just that first year of coaches can be bad, especially when you walk into problems in the trenches because they take longer to develop. I know Gator fans won't listen, but I'm going to say it again. Patience is a virtue. Next year may not go the way you want, but long-term, I think it'll be all right. Because, by the way, Trotwine, he's one of the better O-line recruiters in the country, and most O-line coaches are terrible at it. So that's not a high hurdle to jump over, but like he's legitimately a good recruiter. So that'll help. And Ward only knows they will have readily open availability for the 27 class, because I'll bet you, I'll go ahead and say it now, at least one guy from their 27 class will compete for a starting job in fall camp his freshman year. That's not a good place to be in, but that's where Florida's at. So we'll see how many portal guys they take this year. But for Brandon Olsen of Locked On Gators, I am Brian Smith, Locked On the Portal. We will see you again soon.